Welcome back, eBikeaholics. If you're new to the channel and you're looking for information about electric bikes and the latest tech, you've come to the right place. Make sure you subscribe. Today we are taking a look at our BBSHD Comfort Commuter. The Bafang BBSHD mid-drive motor has a maximum output rating of 1000 watts. It has a built-in 30 amp controller, and it can handle a 24 volt, 36 volt, or 48 volt battery. I believe you may be able to overvolt it, but you run the risk of burning out the controller and potentially the motor. One of the key highlights that we really like about this motor is that the controller is built into the motor unit, whereas most hub kits like this one will have a separate controller that you need to mount and wire elsewhere. It's a fairly easy install. It may seem daunting, but in most cases you just need to unbolt the cranks. You'll need a crank puller, and then unbolt the bottom bracket with usually it'll be a Shimano type, depends on what type of bottom bracket you're working with, and you'll just need to remove the bottom bracket. And then the BBSHD has just a cylinder that slides right through the bottom bracket shell, and it includes all the mounting hardware and brackets, and you use your original bottom bracket lock ring. The only difficulty with this installation is getting a perfect alignment with this bracket here, because the way that this bracket works is that there are grooves inside on the inside of it, and they have to compress into the side of the bottom bracket frame. So we had actually messed up this install. We didn't have it perfectly aligned the first time, and what happened was those, from the torque of the throttle, those grooves basically just wore right into the aluminum part of the frame, so that now you'll notice it can swivel, which probably isn't really a problem, but it's just not a good thing to see. Probably off-roading it could be an issue, but commuting on the roads, light throttle use, not a big deal for us. It's just something you want to look out for. Another thing that's important to pay attention to on this build is your chain line. You need to make sure that you can have a pretty straight chain line, otherwise you will get chain skipping. The higher gears, the smaller cogs, are more inclined to skipping at high torque, especially if you're at a light or some kind of stop and you want to slam the throttle to enter the intersection. It could potentially skip over the smaller cogs, and it may damage the chain, the frame, and the cogs in the cassette. So that's something to keep an eye out for. We had a different chain ring on here. It came out further, so we had to change it back to the original Bafang one so that we could get closer chain line. Another thing we like about the BBSHD is that it is easy to hide the wiring. Most of it you can just keep right underneath there, and you can't see it. The only wires that show are the battery pack wire, a red and a black, and then the accessory cable that runs up to the display. We're using it with a 48 volt 14 amp hour high-long battery pack, and it's been great. I believe it's about 670 watt hours, which gives us about 35. We haven't done any tests for the exact range, but we get about 35 to 40 miles depending on a number of factors. The weight that we're carrying, the wind, the elevation, if we're going hilly, if we're using the throttle or mostly pedal assist. For commuting, this thing is so powerful, we mostly just keep it in pedal assist 1 or 2, which I believe puts out maybe 250 or 350 watts. But what we like about the BBSHD having so many watts as the maximum potential output is that it feels much more reliable. You don't have to worry about it breaking down unless you're hitting it really hard on the trails and you're just constantly slamming on the throttle. You could just tell this thing has no problem. Even just climbing up hills, it's rarely struggling, and I think that's something that people would complain about with the BBS02, which just wasn't as heavy duty and as powerful as this motor. The BBSHD does not include a torque sensor. It actually uses a speed sensor using magnetic strips that attach to your spokes, so it can sense how fast your wheel is spinning. And instead of using a torque sensor, some mid-drive kits, I believe Bosch and Bros, will use a torque sensor built into the motor to decide when to give you power. And this one will use pedal assist and sense that as soon as the wheel starts to spin from you pedaling it, it'll give you whatever pedal assist level you have it set to. So that was 250 watts, pedal assist level 1. Let's go straight up to 5 to see the maximum output. Another nice thing about the BBSHD is it's relatively quiet for a mid-drive motor. Some of the mid-drive motors can be loud and whiny, and with this one oftentimes you'll hear the cassette and the road noise over the motor. You won't notice it while you're riding. We really like the controller on this kit. It gives a good smooth power transition, and it allows you to take over if you want to give full power. If, let's say, you're on pedal assist 1 and you're cruising along and suddenly you need to take a lane or you need to climb a hill, you can just slam that throttle down and it'll give you full power. We chose the kit with the DPC14 full color display. It's LCD, which we really prefer much better than the LED. LED are the little simple ones that just have the 3 or 4 lights to show you where your battery level is. This one you can choose to show you either the voltage or a percentage of how much battery life you have left. That is great. It has a clock, it has a trip meter, it'll show you total miles. We've commuted on this bike and picked up groceries and did trail rides for about 500 miles so far. It includes this display control, which we really like because it gives some good feedback. You can hear the click, you can feel the click as you're changing the assist levels. And we've had others that are really sensitive to where you'll skip from 1 to 5, and that's just not fun, could potentially be dangerous. As far as the full color display, I don't think it's really that important to have any color. This one shows you the average speed, maximum speed. We've gotten this kit up to 40 miles per hour. We do an average about 12. I'd say on pedal assist level 1 you're probably doing between 12 and 15 miles per hour. We also have the thumb throttle. What I like about this thumb throttle included with the kit is it has a nice wide double-sided lever that you can use on left or right hand, and It's fairly small, maybe about an inch wide, and it'll also give a certain amount of power based on how hard you pressed it. So you can just kind of tap it, or you can go all the way for full power. The kit also includes brake levers with the motor cutoff. So as soon as you tap the lever, it'll cut off the motor. Extra safety issue. If you have hydraulic brakes, you won't be able to use those. Just keep that in mind. Our front hub build, we do not have the cutoff switches. They're really not that important. It's just, I would say for beginners it's good to have, but once you get the hang of riding, you won't need them. So this display does give up to 9. We have it set to 5 pedal assist levels. And obviously depending on, you can either do 3 levels, 5 levels, or 9 levels. And depending on how you have it set up, that will divide the power output. Another nice feature of the DPC14 display is the USB slot right there on the bottom. If you need to charge your bike lights, phone, camera, other devices, you can charge directly from your battery pack. The Raleigh Circa 1 came with a 7-speed twist shifter. I would prefer to have a quick shifter, just one less thing to have to be twisting on. The reason we chose the Raleigh Circa 1 on this build is because this build really is for comfort, leisure. I had injured my lower back playing flag football, and I was using, this guy was a single speed at the time with this 350 watt 36 volt setup, and I had to stand up and pedal up hills. So with an injured lower back, it's just not fun, and I didn't want to have to take the car or walk to work, so I decided I'd build something that was a little more pedal forward. It's not quite as pedal forward as the Townie and that type, but it does give a more upright, laid back seat position. It's got a nice back sweep on the handlebars, spring saddle, 27.5 inch wheels with nice balloon tires. I believe these are Kenda 1.95, and they're great for gravel and road, which is nice because I have the option of either a gravel path on my commute or I can take the roads. So these are really perfect, and I usually keep them inflated around 55-60 psi. Very comfortable ride. I have some plastic SKS fenders just to keep gravel from flying up at the battery and the motor. Sunlight, rear rack. Pannier racks really are clutch if you're commuting. I've seen so many people lately with backpacks and water bottle attachments, and everything's clunking around, and it's so uncomfortable to ride with a backpack. So if you're seriously commuting, then you should consider a pannier rack and a trunk bag. The latest trunk bag we've been using is Roswheel. This is the Sunlight fold-out basket, and it just pops right out. It's really nice to have that option whenever you're out somewhere, or if you're at work and pick up groceries on the way home. Another thing for commuting, a must-have, is a nice chain cover. If you can find a bike that has a chain guide of some sort, that would be nice too, to keep the chain on the ring. We also added the Lumen Trail, a heavy-duty center stand, just in case you have to do some rear tire or tube repair on the road. Just makes it that much easier. Another thing that's nice about mid-drives over hub motors is that you don't have to touch the wheels. It can be a bit of a hassle having to change the tire on a hub motor. You'll notice that rear wheels are more common to get puncture flats or pinch flats, and it's much more of a hassle if you have a rear hub motor to have to do that maintenance on the fly. Definitely recommend for commuting a nice bar end mirror. This is just one of the basic simple ones. Really only need one on your left side because bike lane you should be on the right side of the road and you want to make sure you look over your shoulder. Of course, a mirror should never replace looking over your shoulder if you have to take the lane or make a left turn. Another thing I'd like to point out on this build is the V-brakes. You probably have heard by now someone saying you absolutely must have disc brakes on an e-bike. We disagree. We have 160 millimeter Avids on the front hub build, and yes, they're nice. Yes, great stopping power. Are they an absolute must-have? Not necessarily. Unless you're doing hardcore downhill riding, V-brakes can be just fine. And Cool Stop, if you can see them, we only have them on the front. Cool Stop makes e-bike specific rim brake pads. And we've noticed that they are a little bit better as far as stopping power than these are the regular ones that came with the Raleigh. The stopping power is a little bit better, but more notably, they seem to last longer. And that's something with rim brakes, is that you, on an e-bike, you will be going through brake pads faster. As well as with a mid-drive, you will see your chain wear out faster and your cassette will wear out faster. And that's one of the reasons why on our latest build we went with a belt drive and an IGH. Unfortunately, there is no chain ring designed to fit a Gates Carbon belt drive with the BBSHD. So we were not able to do that, and that's why we went with the front hub motor, disc brake compatible on this build.